Welcome, everyone. Episode 7 of the Dolphins Make Me Cry podcast. Steve Giordano, honored to be here as your host. And wow, did we go from 0 to 60 in an NFL season, literally in a blink of an eye, from the preseason to now week 1 to now week 2, Thursday Night Football. It's coming fast and furious, but I have to start here. The Tyreek Hill situation. Wow, a lot to unpack, and I'm going to try and make it quick. So in this situation with Tyreek Hill going to the game, this video's been out there. Everybody's kind of seen it at this point. He's going about 60 miles an hour. He's literally right by the stadium. He gets pulled over in his McLaren with dark tinted windows, and in typical Tyreek Hill fashion, he doesn't shut his mouth. If he would have just shut his mouth and de-escalated the situation, and not defending an overzealous officer here by any means, because he was wrong. But Tyreek Hill needs to know better. He has been, in his NFL career, one of the best players in the league, if not the best. Love having him on the team on the field, but he's just always got his hand in some shit. And in this situation, he should have known and had more awareness to know, I cannot get myself in any more trouble. Number one, I just got paid. It's the beginning of the season. When the officer asks you to give him the license and to keep the window rolled down, just say, yes, sir. Keep it moving. Take your ticket, get into the stadium, and go be great. But instead, he had to give him a hard time. Now, the officer was completely over the top, and it didn't need to get to that. And then you get Calais Campbell involved and what have you. But I need Tyreek Hill to be smarter than that, and I think he knows that, and hopefully we can move on. And here's my second part of this problem. This is Dolphin-esque. I can go through a laundry list of bullshit that this team has dealt with that's been off-the-field crap for my whole life of being a Dolphin fan. And anybody who's a Dolphin fan can relate to this. And all it does is create distraction. When right now we need to be focused on the Buffalo Bills. And I'm going to take it a step further. I don't need Mike McDaniel crying at the podium the next day about what happened. I don't need Tua talking about it. I don't need the Dolphins putting out a statement about it. You know what you guys should be fucking crying about? The fact that you haven't won a playoff game in 24 years. Somebody cry about that, because I'm usually the one crying about that. And what's really annoying me in this situation is that word distraction, and how we're now going into a humongous game on a Thursday night where we're sitting here talking about cops, parking tickets, and the law. So I'm going to put that to bed, rant over, but it just really, really pisses me off, the fact that this is the stuff that we're always talking about with the Dolphins, instead of winning playoff games, winning divisions, winning Super Bowls. And I think a lot of the things go hand in hand. Now, let's backtrack then to the actual game of week 1, Dolphins-Jaguars. Insanely hot, great experience at the stadium for a home opener, but obviously after everything that went on with the Tyreek Hill situation, there was a lot of uneasiness and uncertainty, and the bottom line to me is that had to have played a factor in the fact that in the first half of that game, they played extremely poorly. They were off target. They didn't seem to have a tremendous game plan. You know, they were trying to run the ball. It wasn't really happening. And again, it's going to go into your interior line that is kind of suspect. You know, the Jaguars weren't on fire offensively right off the bat, because we were definitely affecting them. But they come out, then they go and they score before the half. They have, they're winning at the half by 10, and you could just feel this, okay, this isn't good, because you basically had a piss poor first half that you could not get anything going, and your defense was doing enough, but you also saw defensively from them, it was kind of vanilla early on. They didn't really show you a hell of a lot, but they hung in there. It was good to see Jalen Ramsey play after all the speculation with the injury. Then you get to the second half. They played better, but let's be very, very real and transparent here. If Etienne scores where he's got nothing but air and opportunity between him and the goal line, and Javon Holland doesn't make an amazing play from a player who I called it a couple weeks ago, has to step up because he wants to get paid. And he talked about the fact that he's practiced more in stripping the ball because he wants to create more turnover. Amazing that creates a turnover, which gives the Dolphins the ball rolling out towards the end zone. Cater Kahu gets it, and now you have a completely different ball game. And there were really 3 plays in this game that won it for the Dolphins, but they are crazy fortunate. Now, you don't give wins back. You don't look wins in the face and say, hey, we didn't deserve that one. You take it because there's plenty of times when you're a good team trying to become a great team that you lose that game. So in the pantheon of the season, hopefully we'll look back and say, man, that was a huge game that a big-time players that we'll talk about made big-time plays. It got you a win, a huge win, AFC win. Maybe it got you into the playoffs. Maybe it got you the division. You don't know. We'll see where this all shakes out. But you get that turnover where you're getting basically outplayed for 2.5 quarters. And then, bang, the talent shows up. One play, 80 yards. Tyreek, of course. He's got to give him his credit where it's due. 80-yard bomb that Tyreek takes to the house, off the turnover. Now it's a brand new game. And then the third play of this game, X Factor, was really twofold. One, it was the Super Bowl winning coach making a very stupid decision and going for a 4th down in his own territory. And then Jalen Ramsey making a huge play, following the running back all the way across the field, making an amazing tackle, and then getting the ball back for the Dolphins, where they were ultimately able to get themselves the lead and then gives themselves a game-winning kick by Jason Sanders, who also missed a much easier kick earlier in a terrible attempt. So I'm a little shaky with him, but he's very good on the game winners. I think he's hit 8 in a row now. So you take it. You take the victory. It is what it is. But the worry here is, my worry is this. I saw the same team that I saw in the last 2 years. The good, not great. Like, you basically, in years past, in years that were not the last 3 years where they've had all this talent, the Dolphins would have lost that game. They would have went down 24-7. They probably would have tacked on another field goal, touchdown, what have you, and they would have lost because they didn't have enough talent to overcome. In this situation, the talented players made the key plays in the game to win it. But when I look at the overall game, there were some good things that were done. There were some bright spots. Defensively, I'd say Jalen Phillips, big time defensively. He was on it, coming off that injury. He's just a freak, and he's hopefully going to be able to maintain that and hopefully kind of really get up to true form. You didn't get ran over, which I thought was going to happen from a running back perspective. Calais Campbell had some big plays there. So your defensive line was keeping them in check. Your safeties and corners, they did enough. They kind of, they kept you there, obviously. The big turnover. You saw more in the second half from Weaver and his defense, where there was a little bit more creative, moving things around, pass rush, stuff like that. But my problem is, I think that you still, again, you're now going into year 3 where we're playing games and we're playing off of the talent. Now, I will give them this credit. They did do some more little things that you did need to see. And I'll give you the example. It would be at the end of the game where they had multiple short yardage situations and they were able to line up in gold, get first downs. That's important to me. So I'm not gonna kind of sugarcoat the importance of that. So that was important because those are things that we need to see in short yardage situations. But overall, they did not play a crisp game. Now, a lot of people have talked about the fact we don't have a hell of a lot of preseason action. Most of these guys don't play together in the preseason. It's a different game. You know, you saw it kind of across the league. You saw offensive line play not be great, some quarterback play not be great, you know, and now you're throwing in the mix, bang, you got a Thursday night game against your division rival, who's basically, you can basically call them your daddy because they've beaten your ass now 11 out of 12, and including a playoff victory. So it's going to be an insanely huge game and situation, and hopefully, taking out what I said earlier, the distraction of Tyreek and the talk of it, hopefully that's not taking away from the game plan in the Buffalo Bills, because I don't hear the Buffalo Bills talking about, you know, traffic violations. I don't. I hear them, really them who will say they took somewhat of a step back, right, because of guys that they lost. However, they won their game 34-28 against the Cardinals. They did enough. Defensively, their defensive line looked insanely well, and that's a big worry in this upcoming game. So where are we going to go in this game? What are the keys to this game? To me, we obviously lose the advantage of the heat, although you're going to get the nighttime humidity. So I think you need to really have a fast offensive start, and this might not be the game where you run the ball as much as I would probably like and most would probably like. And the other factor of that run game is Raheem Mostert's already been ruled out with a hurt chest. He hurt it early on in the game, and you could kind of tell he wasn't really right towards the end of the game. Devon Achane, who also had a pretty good game, he's questionable. He hasn't practiced all week. I'm sure he'll probably give it a go, but I'm sure he's going to be limited. And now we're talking, we got Jeff Wilson Jr., who got in some important carries. Jalen Wright, rookie, who basically was hurt last week and inactive, and they're going to have to call somebody up from the practice squad. So now we're already going in running back wise where it's a problem. But are you going to be able to run on that front? You're probably going to get into more of your outside zone, and then you're probably going to do a little bit of what I didn't necessarily like in the Jaguar game, which was way too many passes to backs and checkdowns. And what they also did a terrible job of was they tried to force the ball into the tight ends, but the tight ends didn't do him any favors. Durham Smythe, you got to catch the ball, brother, or you're going to be on the bench. He had a lot of drops, and they didn't really get much from Jonnu Smith, and I think they had one catch from Julian Hill. So, again, hope to see more tight end-centric. If I'm the Dolphins, this might be the game where I am going at them from a pass perspective with Waddle and Hill, and then the tight ends specifically because of Buffalo's secondary, and it's going to be probably a lot of quick passes, which is nothing new. Quick passes to wideouts to really neutralize the Bills' defensive line, because this is definitely a game where Tua can be affected by really a rejuvenated Buffalo Bills defensive line. And it's going to be a very big test for our O-line to see if those big boys are going to be physical enough. I don't know. Don't like it, but it's going to be what it's going to be. Defensively, I mean, look, are the Bills what they were? They lost guys, but I think at the end of the day, Josh Allen is just that good. I hate to admit it, but he's that good. You need to make Josh Allen make mistakes. You need to keep him in the pocket and make him a pocket passer. And it's almost one of those things where you just don't want to over pursue. They've done a decent job at certain points of doing this in these losses, but then it just ultimately it unravels, because unless you're, I don't want to say perfect, but close to it, if you're not close to perfect offensively, being the Dolphins, you're basically leading Josh Allen out there to where he can pick you apart, and you give him too many opportunities. He makes mistakes. He made mistakes in the Week 18 game last year that basically were handing you the game and you had the lead, and then your special team sucked and you blew it. But you played well enough defensively against him to win that game. Now, he's once again asked to do more because he doesn't have as much talent as he had before. Is he going to elevate those wideouts and running backs? Absolutely he is. They scored 34 points last week. But there has to be something here where you can really rattle him and keep him in the pocket and knock him around and make him give you 2 turnovers. Yeah, I think if you can get 2 turnovers out of him, you got a decent shot. If you can play some, fairly good, crisp offensive football. It doesn't have to be, putting up 40 points, but it's got to be the moving the chains, the, get yourself a 10-point lead type of a thing, and then let's kind of, turn the game a little bit to our favor and put some of that pressure on them. And they know how to handle the pressure because they've handled us pretty damn well the last, 13 times, and really the entire time that Josh Allen's been the Bills quarterback. So all of that stuff being said, and the other thing I'd even say that was a key factor from a special teams, even though I'm always killing special teams, was punter Bailey. He was booming them last week, and they needed it. And it helped the defense from a field position perspective. They need to continue that. They have to kind of build that. We can't live on our talent football, and we live on the complementary football. And then the talent it'll just overwhelm somebody. If you put all of that together on this team, you would have a big time winner and probably 12, 13 game winner. It's just I don't see it, and I don't see it consistently. But maybe we're turning a page. We shall see. So, my pick. Steve's Week 2 Miami Dolphins pick in the league where they play for pay. Dolphins, Bills, Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime, Hard Rock Stadium. The Bills favored on the road by 2.5, and the over-under is 49. Before all of the nonsense this week with Tyreek Hill, I actually felt pretty good the Dolphins would play a good game, play a solid game, and the short week travel, Thursday Night Football, heat in Miami, working in new players. I thought a lot of those factors would help the Dolphins get over the hump to win a tight game, a 3-point game, a 7-point game. I felt good about it, and I also a lot of times feel like the times where you think the Dolphins are gonna win, they lose, and when you feel like they're gonna lose, they win. Just kind of the way it is. But for me in this game, knowing all the things that went on, I am going to lean on Buffalo winning this game. I think it's going to be a 27-20, so take the under. I think we'll keep it close. I think we'll do good things. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, the distraction and the focus of what went on this week will hinder the Dolphins, and the Bills, being the team that they are and the team that knows how to win and beat us, will ultimately come through and beat us. God, I hope I'm totally wrong on this. And let's face facts. I was wrong last week. I picked the Jaguars, but I'm just gonna keep saying this. You need to prove this guy wrong. I've lived this dream too many times, or nightmare, and I kind of know where it's headed. I need a team that's focused without distractions to beat a great team, and a team that is really sitting between you and being good and great and being a division winner, having home playoff games, and getting over the hump. This is a huge game for the Dolphins. Find a way, but ultimately, in my heart, I think Buffalo's going to pull it out. Am I right? Am I wrong? We'll find out Thursday Night Football. Let's go, Fins.